Hi everyone, welcome to the TechAutos.com unboxing of Huawei's Ideos X5 U8800 smartphone. Now most of the phones we unbox here at TechAutos are high-end HTC phones, so this is something quite different from that. It's on the other side of the spectrum. To give you a sense, we picked this phone up for the equivalent of about $280 unlocked, so it's fairly affordable. It's a mid-range Android smartphone. And what's interesting about this is that it's one of the cheapest smartphones you can get with an ARM v7 processor. To understand really what this means, you can just look up the TechAutos smartphone processor guide online. But this class of processor includes the ARM Cortex-A8, the Snapdragon processor from Qualcomm, and things of this sort. And this is basically the sort of slowest processor you can have to get a smooth experience in Android. This particular phone has a 3.8-inch capacitive multi-touch touchscreen with 800 by 480 WVGA resolution. It has an 800 megahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon chip, so it should be at least fairly smooth, if not completely smooth, like a dual-core processor equipped phone might be like a Samsung Galaxy S2. But nonetheless, the specs are pretty decent. 512 megabytes of RAM. It comes with a 4 gig micro SD card, so you'll be okay to start with at least, and then later you can upgrade to something larger, up to 32 gigabytes. So what we're curious about to see is whether a smartphone that's under $300 unlocked can give you a decent experience or not. Now this is running Android 2.2 Froyo. The next version, Android 2.3 Gingerbread, is not currently available for this phone, but hopefully will be soon. So let's take a look. And by the way, if you haven't heard of Huawei, it's a Chinese brand, very large in networking equipment. They've recently entered the sort of consumer side with smartphones that you can buy across the world. So let's get started. Now this box is sort of interesting. It has a sleeve, and then the real box is inside the sleeve. Why it has two different sort of covers, we're not really sure. Nonetheless, here's the box, so let's get started. So we'll use our little handy blade, open a little pieces of tape, and the box itself is fairly consistent with what you'd find on a high-end smartphone. So packaging is not bad at all. So here's the phone itself, and let's see if we can get this out. Okay, and here's the phone. Let's put this aside for the moment. See what else we get. In here, nothing much in here. We get a quick start guide, a warranty card, safety information, battery, and this is a 1500 milliamp hour lithium polymer battery, so fairly consistent with a mid-range smartphone these days. You have an AC adapter which goes to a USB. We have the USB cable that goes to a micro USB to plug into the phone for charging or PC sync. And then we have some fairly standard 3.5 millimeter headphones. Here is the micro SD card, and as promised, it is a 4 gig card. It's from Transcend. It's a class 2 card, so not the speediest, but can't complain. It comes free with the phone. So here's the phone. I'll take it out of its little plastic case here, and here it is. It has a sort of soft touch rear, which actually feels pretty nice. It's a sort of high friction pad, which would be good to sort of hold it in hand. Feeling in hand is actually not bad. It's a little bit thicker than the latest smartphones out there, but really doesn't feel bad. Especially at this price point, it's not too bad looking and feeling. The rear has a 5 megapixel camera with a single LED flash. Here's a speaker. It has a dual microphone for noise cancellation, and there is no dedicated camera button, so that's one thing. The other thing this phone is missing is a front-facing camera. So if you're looking to do Skype chat and things, you'll only be able to see the other party. They won't be able to see you. But at $280, you can't really expect too much more than that. In terms of look, it's it looks fairly decent. There is a sort of gunmetal finished shiny plastic ring around the sides of the phone. Gives it a sort of semi-premium look. And besides that, it's fairly decent. It has a with Google logo at the back, as you can see, and so that means it's a Google experience phone. You won't be getting any sort of replacement user interface. To give you an idea of what's around the phone, we have volume rocker on the left side, the power button on top, as well as the 3.5mm jack for the headphone. On the right side, there's nothing. Below we have a microphone and micro USB. So overall, nothing too surprising. On the front, we have the earpiece as well as these two holes here in the cover are probably for a distance sensor and some other, and probably light sensor, not a front-facing camera. One thing I'll point out is that the camera in the rear here does stick out a little bit from the body, which means that when you put it down, the camera actually rests on the surface. So if you put it on top of something that's kind of rough, you could potentially scratch the lens. So that's one downside of this design, but I suppose it lets them achieve a slightly thinner phone. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at the outside of the phone, let's pop in the battery and the micro USB card and see if we can get started here. So you just slide the cover back and it comes off like that pretty easily. Nothing particularly special here. SIM card slot, the micro USB slot, and battery. So we'll pop those in now. Okay. For some reason the battery label is upside down when you put it in the phone. And then we'll get our micro SD. Okay, we don't have a SIM at the moment, so hopefully it'll work with that one. And here we are, so we'll press the power button. And here we go. So we got the Huawei logo. Taking a while to boot here, but I guess it's the first boot, so that's potentially excusable. Now, one kind of odd thing about this is that this is called the Ideos X5. It replaces Huawei's last Android smartphone in this range, which is called the X6. So for some reason the predecessor had a higher model number. It seems to have restarted here. Not quite sure why. Well, in the meanwhile, let me pull up another phone here for a comparison. So here we have the HTC HD7, which is a 4.3-inch smartphone running Windows Phone 7, but it's fairly similar in size to a lot of the Android HTC 4.3-inch phones. So it gives you a sense that the 3.8-inch screen gives you a smaller footprint, but the body is actually somewhat similar sized. In terms of thickness, they're similar. It's just the HTC has a bit of a curve to it and taper, whereas the Huawei is a little flatter. Actually, in profile, this sort of resembles something like the first generation iPhone more than recent phones like this. So Android is still booting here. And there's a bit of a very subtle sort of animation. Okay. Well, there was an animation there, and it says here, "Welcome to the U8800. Touch the Android to begin." So here we are. Okay, learn to use your U8800. Okay, nothing much here. It'll have us tutorial of swipe. Okay. Okay, so now that we're done with the swipe tutorial, let's go down with the rest of this. So it says begin, and I guess the swipe tutorial is back. Let's see if we can X this. Can we do begin? Or okay. I guess you have to go through the swipe tutorial. So I'm just going to skip this now. And there's no sim at the moment. I'm also going to skip. We can allow Google location, that's fine. And automatic, let's set the date. Okay, so after swipe tutorial and Google account setup and everything, we are into the home screen. This is Android 2.2 again, Froyo. And pretty standard, nothing particularly unique here. We have a few different screens here, and it's fairly responsive. I mean, this is responsive by Android standards. It's not quite going to match Samsung Galaxy S2, but for an Android mid-range Android phone, it's not bad. And of course, it's not really going to compare with an iPhone or Windows Phone 7 unit. It does have this cool effect here when you're scrolling apps. They sort of, it's kind of like a cube, the edge of a cube, and it rolls onto the top edge of the cube. So that's kind of a cool effect that Huawei has added here. You can just go home from here. In terms of physical buttons at the bottom, you got the 4 sort of standard Android capacitive buttons for back, menu, home, and search. Although some Android phones these days only have 3, but this has a full 4, and you have your app drawer and everything. So nothing particularly unique here. In terms of, let's take a look at the preloaded apps. And so we see documents to go. That's nice, so you can sort of open and save Microsoft Office files. Or rather, you can only view if you need to edit. You need to purchase the full version from the Android market. So let's quit this, go back, and what else do we have here? We have the Facebook app built in, we have Layer included. HiSpace is Huawei's own app market, but luckily they haven't replaced the Android market, it just is included as well, so that's nice. So if you want to use the Android market, you can do so without ever looking at Huawei's offering here. Besides that, it's pretty standard, nothing we can see here that's unusual. Let's take a look at the camera. Viewfinder is fairly responsive, so that's nice. And again, it's a 5 megapixel camera that will take 720p HD video. So of course we haven't had a chance to sort of look at the image quality and things, but in terms of responsiveness and everything, it's really not bad. So let's take a look what happens. We'll unlock. This seems to be stuck. Interesting. Let's turn it off. Turn it on again. That's done. Okay, well, that's sort of inconsistency that it's kind of odd. Let's see if it happens again. We're on the camera app and we turn it off, turn it on. Okay, well, I don't know what happened the last time, but hopefully it's not a real bug. So again, yeah, you can, as usual with Android, you can customize, add widgets and things here. But in terms of this particular unit, it's really not bad. 3.5-inch screen. It's fairly bright, off-angle, sort of colors and everything are okay. The screen is not going to match, it's a standard LCD. It's not going to match the contrast of an OLED screen or some of the higher quality IPS LCD you would find in, like an iPhone, for instance. But it's really not bad, and for the price, it's a pretty solid sort of device. Hopefully Huawei will release 2.3 for this soon. And just for reference, let me just put up an HTC HD7. This is running Windows Phone 7, and of course the smoothness you see in Windows Phone 7 is not something you'll ever find in an Android phone of this sort, at least. But it's it's fairly smooth. And again, for the price, it's really not a bad phone. So we'll post any further thoughts on our review at techautos.com. And if you have any other questions or anything, feel free to post them here on YouTube or on our site. So that's just a first look at the Huawei Ideos X5 U8800.